Hello. I am very interested in what I'm going to do today, which is a new version of what I normally do on New Music Friday as it's known to most people. What I would do is I would pick an album that I'm kind of interested in, vaguely by knowing the artist or something like that. And I would start it, and I would get as far as I can get, initially in 2 hours, then in 1 hour, and now I have decided that 1 hour is just not sufficient to try out an actual album, especially if you're doing analysis of it. So what I've done instead is listen to the album and pick a song from it. It's shocking. Genius. Has anyone done something like this before? Maybe. I don't know. I don't. Yeah. I keep abreast of a certain amount of musical analysis stuff. Certainly it makes a lot of sense, and it is something I've thought of doing before, but too much effort, basically. But I've done it now, and I intend to do it for the future as well, which means actually listening to an album and hopefully liking it on Friday morning and trying to stream that day and upload that evening. We will see if that happens. Road to hell may be paved with good intentions, but presumably the road to heaven is also paved with good intentions. Otherwise they're letting a lot of baddies into heaven, and that doesn't seem right. So yeah, it's this Maddie Ashman album. Now, I have actually been trying to stream this since Friday, but I keep messing it up. I did try initially to do a stream with a spectrogram involved, and this is really specific for this Maddie Ashman project, because Maddie Ashman is someone you might not know, but if you do know, you'll be probably aware she likes to deal with the old microtones. So not just the 12 notes we're accustomed to, being general Westerners. If you're not a general Westerner, I salute you. Well done. You've done something. Or maybe just completely coincidentally not been something. But yeah, intervals like that, they may come up here. We may also get the normal intervals. But we're also going to get some other intervals. And I've had a listen through. Initially my idea was to pick something specifically like this is what encapsulates the album. Oh, that's not quite facing me. Hello. There we go. But there aren't really any. There are 7 tracks. They're different enough to each other. I would say the first 2 are sort of similar, and so, sorry, not the first 2, the first 1 and the last one are sort of similar. They have some similarities to them, but yeah, there's nothing here which would sum it up, but they all sort of feature this microtonal craziness. So I've just decided to go with what my personal predilection in songs is, and that is the longest one. And you can't actually see because Bingo's in the way. But this song that we're going to do here is 7 minutes, 7 seconds long. And hooray for that, because that's nice length of time. That is not what anyone could consider a brief flash in the pan. So I'm very excited. Let's get into it. In Autumn, My Heart Breaks, from the album Her Side by Maddie Ashman. Here we go. Of course, I need to change speakers. Let's try that again. Okay, just let's talk about that first 4 seconds. That's not Maddie Ashman's voice, I believe. If it is, it's pitched down and quite convincingly turned into a more male voice. It could be. Okay, my wife thinks it is, so maybe it is. It's this low chord, which is somewhat like a G minor chord, and then it goes to this. Oh my! Really, we've got 3 different voices, and one of them raises just by a semitone or something approaching a semitone. Let's just have a listen to it again. You can already hear at this early stage that the perfect auto-tune that we might get on a lot of people's music is not present here. Even though these sound very electronic, these voices, they've been manipulated in such a way as to sound electronic. Maybe they're even vocoded, not sure about that. But the absolute pitch that they hold is inconsistent. There's a little bit of oh, not quite as much as that, but there is an inconsistency to the overall pitch that they keep, which clearly shows that there is no auto-tune going on here, at least in this moment. Yeah, this is almost like modern choral sort of classical music. Yeah, we're getting this kind of chord now. So we started with a G minor chord there, very low voicing, just a triad, low in that bass kind of range, and then we've switched to more of a yeah, it probably is this voicing of an F major chord. So we had the G minor chord, sort of changed to an E flat major chord there in first inversion, and then an F major chord, all sort of fitting in a G minor or G Aeolian mode, if you like, not really minor because it doesn't have the sharpened 7th so far, but very modal. Yeah, everything fitting together quite nicely. No chromatics really, not really any microtones as far as I can tell. Where the microtones might be is in the specific individual choices of which D to add to that chord. So, you know, because we have such a variety, all of those notes that I've just played there somehow qualify as D in our general spectrum of sounds, despite in quick succession sounding quite different to each other. So maybe the D is slightly sharper than we would expect. Not to my ears, to be honest. If anything, I would say that the 3rd might be a little sharper than minor 3rd. Something like that, maybe. Yeah, but it's really small details that my ears are not set to perceive perfectly here. But let's see if I can hear any unequivocally as we go on. Yeah, we've got a really nice sort of slowly changing thing here. It's really sort of changing one note at a time, just crawling up slowly. So we changed R to R, and then I think maybe we go R to R, but I don't remember that change. It might just go to F major there. Maybe we'll have another listen. When we're at F major, we get this R to R to make it D minor, R to R to make it B flat major, R to R to make it G minor again, but in first inversion this time, R to R to make it E flat again, R to R. This time we don't go from E flat to F, we go instead to C minor, and that's where we are right now. But yeah, it's just raising one note each time, so we're cycling through a set of chords here in a almost robotic fashion. Yeah, Yeah, and then that was not quite the same as we've come to expect, because I'm pretty sure that was a sus4 chord. Why not? Let's listen to the whole thing again and let's go through. I'll point them out as they come up. Here's a G minor, E flat. Yes. Okay, so there we do have the C minor, but then actually the top note raises first, so we get this kind of bum 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 stacked fourths. Interesting sort of non-resolved chord, but doesn't really have any strong dissonance there. It's just not really descript. We're not really sure how to feel about it, maybe. And then it does raise, and we get that F major. Okay. And we get the D minor, the B flat major, the G minor, the E flat major, the C minor. So they're actually, I think, the same chord. Yeah. So this one where the top note raised first from E flat to F, that happens here as well, but it's no longer the top note. It's that middle note raises. Yeah, so that's pretty cool. So instead of following this pattern constantly, we have this interruption to the pattern that has happened the same way both times. So maybe it's just a part of a more complex pattern, but interestingly it's an interruption to what would be the most straightforward pattern to assume here, which is nice. Yeah, we're carrying on. Yeah. There are also little extra voices in the middle. Sometimes that middle voice is coming down da, 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 to that low note. It's not always staying exactly in the middle. I've only perceived it twice in that middle voice, but it might be happening in some other voices. Oh, and there, yeah, okay. It happened at the end there. So we got two from one voice and then ooh from one voice, leaving us with this fun sort of minor 7 chord, interrupting again the sequence that was going on. Nice. This is a kind of major 6 chord with a second inversion, and so it feels very, very rich and broad. But we really haven't done anything with the ensemble here, apart from maybe add a voice, but it feels very, very similar so far. There's some low bass going on there. I'm going to turn up the headphones because that almost didn't come through to me. Let's try it again. Oh, it's not that low, I suppose. It's just an F, but we get this kind of something moves, and then we get most of a clear F major chord. Again, maybe with the third slightly off from where you would expect it. My, that one feels a little flatter than normal. Yeah. So that's, if my instinct is correct, that would be not this beautiful 12-tone third, more of this kind of mean tone third, or justly intoned third, which would be a little softer than that sharp version we get in 12-tone equal temperament. That's what I imagine is going on here. That is what it kind of sounds like to me. This softer, slightly more neutral version of the chord, which doesn't feel as constantly on, as constantly animated as the major chords do in 12 tone equal temperament, at least to me. These things are basically subjective at the moment. We don't have consensus about how microtonal differences make us feel in chords yet, but maybe we will come to these. This is why this is so cutting edge in in terms of music. So we've lost that low bass. Yeah, okay, and we've got somewhere in between an F sharp and a G being held. I think I probably skirted over the switch there, so let's go back 10 seconds and let's try and hear if we can hear that switch from things basically fitting with the guitar to when they don't. No, not really. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. So we kind of get, one of those, and then I guess it's going for more of a G tonality than an F sharp tonality, because we've just had an F, and it doesn't feel like it's interfering with that, really, but it's interesting how we have shifted slightly, even without being particularly perceptible here. Again, the third there is that lowest note. I'm not going to be able to play this at all. Need one of... I think Maddie Ashman has a a guitar with lots more frets. So that's what we need here. I'm going to check the credits because I really don't believe this is Maddie Ashman singing this. Main artist, composer, producer, Gus White, producer, recording engineer, Leo Abrahams, mixing engineer, Kevin Tussey, mastering engineer. Well, there's no one else on it, so maybe it is. But interestingly, these are notes that Maddie Ashman would definitely be able to sing, but it doesn't sound like her at all. It sounds much sort of deeper, and this with much a bigger sort of maler sound, really. Yeah, so we're still getting the same kind of movement, just moving one note at a time, but we have really raised quite far. There was our first G, and there's our F, and now we're basically up here somewhere, somehow in like an A tonality. B flat tonality might make more sense, but no, doesn't feel like that. And there's that chord that is stacked fourth, or well, it doesn't come as stacked fourth here, it comes more as a sustained chord, suspended chord, like one of these, E sus2, which then releases to an E major. And we're back in with the guitar all of a sudden. Don't know how this has happened. It's somewhat boggling. Ooh, the first really noticeable chromatic moment there, going from this, which is basically an E major chord, to, with this descending line as well. Going from E major there to C sharp major, I think. Is it? No, sorry, it's F sharp major, with a sort of 70 thing, quite a active movement, very classical kind of movement. Yeah, and waiting there on the augmented version of the chord before moving on. Lovely stuff, really fun, and it does resolve as it would in classical music. We go essentially from the dominant, the 5 chord, to the 1 chord. The 1 chord is a B minor chord. Oh, but yeah, it's not finished. Okay, let's stop getting so obsessed with the chords, although they are a large part of what's been happening here. Interesting also how there's been while there have been sort of parts that feel like they are a repetition of material that's come earlier. There's been no return to the pitch that it was at, or the words. I think they've kept moving on. We have just been going on this long trajectory in a specific direction, from this low octave now up in this kind of range. So the first voice there has almost gone 2 octaves now from where it began. Will it continue? It feels like there's an extra voice. Sounds slightly more feminine on the top here now. But yeah, we're keeping on going up. There we are. Yeah. Yeah, really, these are standard, relationships between chords that you would expect in, say, Vivaldi or Mozart, maybe. They're not crazy in that respect, but we are sort of interestingly creeping in and out of what the guitar can play easily. Maybe that's just actually a mistake of the performance, but I doubt it. I'm pretty sure that will be intentional. There it is again, but in a different voicing. We've got that one up there, this one low, and that one there, I think, and then that one goes there. In fact, the low one into. So the movement of the individual voices seems to be getting slightly more ambitious and less just slowly creeping up. Yeah, we're really going up into the stratosphere now. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know where we are now. Doesn't matter. We're keeping on going high. Yeah, so one voice there. So we've got a particular motif that's going on there that is extrinsic to the rising pattern, although it does have a rising pattern in it, and the da 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 and the da 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 are like their own sequence, so that's nice. You can imagine this being played on something like a guitar. And then these chords feeling very predictable, and every note comfortably sitting in the expected way, but that is not really what's going on here. Each of these thirds especially just feel like they're like lower or sharper than you would expect them to be, lower or higher, and this gives each chord a bloom, a kind of iciness on the minor ones, I would say, and a real rosiness on the major ones. As we've got higher as well, because the timbre of the voices has shifted, it has tended towards the brighter, slightly harsher sound on the chords as well. Goodness me. Yeah, there we are. We're at top C for a nice big A flat major chord. all the way up there. And a D flat as well. Oh. That seems to be where we're capping out. With a, yeah, okay, so we go, yeah, from that A flat major to an F minor, which changes to an F major. Then we have that B flat minor, back to the F major, back to the B flat minor. Okay. Classic 1-5-1-5-1. Something like that. Played the minor and major the wrong way around, but that's the idea. So yeah, so still this whole 2 minutes 20 has been a slow, controlled rise through these chords in mostly a very predictable way, but then with some things that strangely take us away from the predictable rise in a hard to explain way, and I'm not sure I'll be able to do that. If you happen to watch this, Maddie Ashman, I would be very happy for you to leave a comment and explain exactly what's going on here. That would be really cool. By the way, I did actually see Maddie Ashman performing live when I went to see a string quartet doing Messiaen's Quartet for the End of Time, which was really, really good. And Maddie Ashman was then doing a meditation after it with, I think, Leo Abrahams on guitar, and I forgot his name last time I said this. Oh no, what's he called? The guy who did Immunity, John Hopkins. There we go, John Hopkins on piano. Looks very different to how I expected John Hopkins. I don't know why, but he does. And yeah, Maddie Ashman was playing cello and singing. Not so many microtonal things going on. You're playing with a standard guitar and a standard piano, but yeah, I don't know. It was kind of fun. I think somewhat improvised, but yeah, just this wash of noise for about an hour. I didn't catch many themes, if there were any, from the Messiaen in that performance. Again, please write me a message if there were, and I totally missed them. I'd be really interested to hear that. Anyway, it seems like that's the end of our rise. Is this the end of our main first section? Are we going to do something different? Well, that sounds like an instrument, doesn't it, rather than a voice? Some kind of synthesizer giving us that shiny chord in the background. It's actually just two of the notes. It's not that whole F major chord. It's just it's just these two, maybe up an octave. Do you mind? Come on. I'll do it a string. Sorry. Okay. I think it's this again, like a fourth chord here. So unresolved but quite comfortable in its own way. Just being, yeah, arpeggiated there quite quickly, probably on a guitar. Is it a guitar? That doesn't sound like a guitar. That's very high as well, so I guess it could be here. Not the easiest thing to do. It could be on a guitar. Can't really tell. Now there's pardon me, still getting over this cold. There's our most obvious microtonal system there. The first two notes, do, do, really, really nicely, comfortably a fifth apart, recognizably a fifth. And then do, 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 somewhere there, do, do. A flat sixth, but not the same as a flat six. Somewhere in between that flat six and that natural sixth. Somewhere there, I think, anyway. Is it actually more like a... hang on, let's hear it again. Actually, it's more like a flat 7, really, isn't it? And then more like a 2 on the second one. 2 sounds quite nice, maybe slightly lower than expected, but the flat 7 is the real one that sticks out. That might be going for the flat 7, the natural flat 7 that comes in the harmonic series. We go fundamental, first harmonic, second harmonic, third harmonic, fourth harmonic, fifth harmonic, and then that sixth harmonic. Or sorry, sixth overtone. I think it's the seventh harmonic technically. Can you hear that? I think it might be aiming for that. So I would imagine that most things that are going on here are justly intoned. Something that's more controllable with voices than most instruments. So that would kind of make sense. So this is quite fun. It's very, very ambient, isn't it? And we've just got these kind of rustles of guitar coming in with one note of a matching pair being bent up and down to jar with the other one. Interesting, because it's so peaceful otherwise, and we just have these individual fluttering moments, some of which are really comfortable and really nice, and then others are, yeah, something else going on. Yeah, it feels like video game music to some degree. Maybe we've just wandered into a field where everything looks really, really sweet and idyllic, except for this one little, I don't know, is it a worm struggling to get back into the ground or something like that, and it needs some help. We need to go and help it, something like that. Another synth coming in with some slightly different chords. So there, those kind of bellish notes still sound a bit guitar-y to me, but there's something else going on. I think they're up an octave as well. Yeah, where am I? Something like that. So we've got those going on. Maybe it's just guitar on one pitch and then harmonics on another. It might be. Well, those were different pitches, weren't they? We didn't get that flat 7. We got what sounded like a pretty comfortable 6 and a pretty comfortable flat 3 there. Oh yeah, and a very clear guitar there. Nice, lovely nylon strings, I believe. Maybe not actually. No, actually they've got a little bit of bite to them, so they might be steel. They've got a bit of roundness to them as well, so I would say probably nylon. Yeah. What's these hammer-ons? Sounds pretty comfortable. I didn't hear huge amounts of frets passing as we slid up there either. So this might just be a standard guitar. broadly still in this F major comfortable zone. We didn't start there, did we? We started in G minor, but we did have an F major quite quickly after that. But yeah, kind of a G minor chord is what we've just got there for a moment. And yeah, there's something feels slightly less than standard major here. Oh, in fact, yes, definitely something there. Yeah, that fifth maybe feels a little high somewhere. Maybe like we've got an A flat in there somewhere. Oh no, in fact we do. It's in the guitar. Okay. So yeah, so broadly in this F major, but we've got, yeah, a bit of A flat in the guitar. Okay, some microtones there, all around the same sort of note. Not exactly that, I can't emulate it, but just playing around the same note, so it doesn't feel like odd jumps that would be really disconcerting. It's just variations on the same note, and they feel different in the space because of that, in subtle and difficult to describe ways. Boom, boom, boom. Yeah, so again giving us sort of F tonality here, but the A flat would give us a minor tonality. But well, we're more open than that, and we don't have those notes going most of the time. I think we've just slid. Did we slide to what's that? A B flat in the guitar? Let's just hear it again. So that gives us somewhat of a sus4 chord here. This kind of thing. Open, resonant, yeah, and not resolved, but not discomfortable. Discomforting. Ooh. Finally some bass. Now we did get a few low notes in that earlier part. But we just got some low F there, which is nice. I hope this is all true, by the way, because I haven't actually changed. In fact, I'm going to check my tuning, and if I am slightly off, which there's always a chance that I am, this might actually have to all be revised. No, that is basically an F. It's 10 cents below. Oh, 8 cents, 9 cents, 6 cents. Something around there anyway. So, okay, we are in the right place. I was worried I would have to be like, no, actually everything I said was F, was actually E, but I don't have to do that, thank goodness. Yeah, the low F. And this, that's the basic idea of what's going on here. We're going down a third, up a note, down a third, up a note, down a third, etc. Stopping here, and we're doing an F Dorian scale. There's the lovely Dorian 6, and the minor third. Those are the two notes that make it Dorian. And they're both in there, nice. It feels almost improvised, this. That doesn't feel like it's as deliberately composed as that first section. There's a lot of freedom to this middle section. But it is swelling, isn't it? There's things going on in the background. Same scale again. Some more of that. That feels like it should go with the thing from before, and it would. Something like that. That one before. Yeah, I don't know. Can't play it, but those peals before. 1 5 flat 7 2. This is now flat 3 flat 7 2 4. So it's as if all of those are up a third. There's it played with no interesting nuance in pitch. And I think it's sung down the third with another one. Yeah. It doesn't sound as out there as the other version. And I wonder if that's because the other version is done on an instrument like a guitar, which doesn't have the freedom of pitch that a voice does. And so the voice can find exactly the comfortable middle ground, whereas the note on the guitar can't. I don't know. It could be that. Or it could be samples, and samples are always a bugger to tune. They never sound good, in my opinion, when they've been tuned down a little bit or a little bit up. Similar kind of thing in the melody there, but with a bass note of A flat now. Yeah, not particularly looking for the notes of the chord there. Sometimes they're there, but it's really just the same key, really the same mode, if you like. Yeah, the guitar is just going, isn't it? Just into a higher territory. The voices stay in their sort of high middle area, and then the guitar is shooting off above them, and it's much more active and excited. Okay. An unexpected tonality here of this G sus. Yeah, like sus4 chord, with the voice finally slides from the 4 to the 5, and the guitar giving us a lot of the G and the A flat again, like it did earlier, but here it feels very different with those. It feels a lot more urgent and aggressive. Yeah, still some notes are just not where you would expect them. That's how I would play it, but that's not how it is. It's more like that. I don't know if that's one string being tuned down on this guitar, or whether it is specifically a moved fret that makes it sound a little lower, but whatever it is, it's kind of lovely. And I don't know if it's just people like me who are really familiar with how things sound normally who would really enjoy that. Let me know if you're someone who is not so familiar with how things sound normally. But the way that it's slightly sour, it's slightly, or at least it's slightly lower, and that to me I hear as a kind of sourness to the noise. I really do like it. But yeah, it's an immediate sort of release of emotion for me when I hear just that slight bit out in the pitch. And is it just because it's out, or is it because it's hitting a particular resonance? These are the questions of my life. Nice thirds there. It sounded like it was two guitars, in which case it would be much more planned than I expect this section is. But maybe it is just one guitar. I'm sure we can do that on one guitar. Yeah, that kind of thing. Yeah, it was pretty fast as well. building in that low range especially. We've gone back to the A flat now, we're not in the scary G place anymore. Okay, and things are fading away, the guitar seems to be fading away. We've got a little descending figure in the voice. Same thing there. That's how it's done with no flavour. It's pretty similar with no flavour, I think, but we definitely have that one a little higher. Something like that. Yeah. So they don't fit together in the expected way. That is the rule of thumb here. It's giving a really distinct experience. And that extra voice seems to soften the blow of where that second melody fits. Seems to make it slightly more comfortable because we can hear the and that seems just like a tone down. And then when the other one comes in, it comes in perfectly with that. So yeah, that's an interesting thing, like using the other voice to make the change of tonality a little more comfortable. Yeah, we've got kind of similar things to the beginning now with some, oh yeah, we're totally off from where the guitar is, but we're doing that, but we've got this lower voice. I think it's there actually. So we start with a third, and one voice comes down from that top note. So we get both of those. But we also get that top one still. And then the top one comes down one. I think. Maybe the bottom one comes down one. And then we do exactly the same thing with the next set. They fall in the same kind of way as the first ones were building up. Okay. And now that's a full 3-note chord. Yeah, low, but that's basically what we've got. Okay, and they're all moving down. So then we end up on that one. We start with a sharp a flat F sharp minor, F half sharp if you like, minor, and we end up more or less on E major at the end of it. Oh yeah, and a chromatic change there. So we go from a A flat minor chord, G sharp minor chord, which goes to a B minor chord, and then I guess a D major chord, but they're not very closely related at all, and really it's just this one voice doing that, really making all the difference to the harmony there. It's there's a lot of questions about how to approach chromaticism when you're using an unusual microtonal system, and those are again things I would love to understand about the approach here, but that is unfortunately locked off from me. Similar kind of things here. Those just, some mostly voices holding notes. with that one melody line at the top there, and then these individual small chromatic changes. It really feels like we're going lower, doesn't it? We've got but that main voice stays up there. And the voices are getting a little darker, aren't they? Maybe this is manipulation, or maybe they're slowly being faded in, the other voices. Oh, and we've suddenly dropped down an octave from the main vocal. We've gone down to 2 vocals. And we've always had those as two together, but then we end with just that first one. What's also really cool is that without really noticing, we've gone from being around C to start with there to being around D to start with. We've heard these chromatic changes happening as they have continued. I think every single repetition that melody has been slightly higher until we've got to a D minor, a D ending. Whether it's D minor or not is not so clear, but we've got D there and a D there, and then we end on that sort of open fifth. Cool. Yeah, this is not representative of this album, I would say. This is one of several quite imaginative and really enjoyable songs on this album. I would say they're all enjoyable. I didn't like the second one as much as I liked some of the others, but that said, it's very inventive. It's got some slightly obnoxious elements, maybe things that are gonna get on your wick if you are not particularly into like out there music or music that is commanding of attention. This is definitely not easy, whereas this one, much more easy, comfortable acoustics. There are strange things going on in the harmony which might unsettle some people with perfect pitch. Maybe would be really uncomfortable, but it's a very, very comfortable set of 3 different sections, all of which have this slightly more ambient, maybe classical weft to them. That middle section is really different to the other 2 sections, which are very, very similar to each other, and it's really nice how one of them has these ascending melodies and the other has descending melody. One has ascending harmony and the other has descending harmony. It's really nice. It makes it feel like very well contained piece of music. But yeah, really have a listen to the rest. Let's just do a musical bingo as we've got it here. What did we like about this? We liked that it was linear, and we always like when it's linear, and we always get rid of linear. Let's get rid of riff, shall we? Riff. Basic, linear, that's more like it. Linear. And we really liked that there were no drums, I guess. Let's get rid of fizzy synths. I don't think there were fizzy synths. There were other types of synth, maybe. No drums. you know, I'm not against drums, but it's nice when there aren't any drums in music that is ostensibly made for pop individual consumption. What else have we got? Yeah, we liked the I guess it's like a harmonic pattern or something like that. Let's put that in. You know, I'm going to get rid of Axac Rhythm at the latest moment, because this doesn't have any of that, but it does have harmonic patterns. Now, I'm going to be quite specific when I enforce this one in the future, because I don't mean it just goes round in a 4-chord loop every time. Harmonic pattern has to be something which has some level of commonality between the movement between chords, something like that. Alright, that'll do. Soundscape, you know, almost. I don't think there's enough in that middle section to give it soundscape. It definitely is. You know what? It did make me think of a video game, didn't it? So I'll give it. False relations, I don't really think so. We did have some chromatic moments, but I would not say so. I think we have to give it heavy chromaticism. Because it's so chromatic that it's hard to even notice sometimes. Yeah, it's like I'm a trichromat and there's tetrachromat colors in this or something like that. We know we got harmonic pattern. Unexpected section addition, don't think we can give it that, because all these sections were unexpected to some degree. Unusual chord sequence, yeah, we can definitely give it that. Modal interchange, that's a curious one. Yeah, to some degree. Yeah, I guess I'm not going to look at it too deeply, but let's say yes. It's not strophic, but it is linear. We didn't have a first beat percussion drop. Otherworld's chord change. You know what? We did have something like that, didn't we? I think we did. I think we had a G sharp minor going to a D major. So I think we can get that one. Don't normally get that one. Slow build in texture. Not really. Sort of in the middle part, but broad. I guess they all have some level of slow build in texture, so fine, we'll give it. Multi-octave cohesion, not very often. No, I think no. No drums. Rhythmic displacement. No, there's very little rhythm going on here. I think it would be crazy to say that was rhythmic displacement. Improvised feel, yeah, to some degree, absolutely. Oh, we could put in nylon guitar, never mind. Held dissonances, not really. I wouldn't say held. There was broadly an instrumental section in the middle. Contrary motion, not really either. I mean, like a tiny amount. I don't think we can give it. Don't think we can give polyphony either. Gigantic reverb. I wouldn't say it's gigantic, actually. Would I? Let's call it gigantic just for getting things on the board. Approximate pitch. That's a really interesting one. Oh, and I've put approximate. Wow. Oh dear. That's a real sign of macular degeneration. Might be a sign of macular degeneration that I didn't notice. It's a sign of my brain degenerating, because I was allergic to spelling mistakes for the large proportion of my life so far. Never mind. Robotic voice. I think we basically did have robotic voices to begin with, so I'm going to give that one. I don't think we can give approximate pitch. I think most of the pitches here are really deliberate, so no. But despite not getting any lines, this is a pretty impressive board of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. Yeah, that's pretty good. Pretty good stuff. So, Maybe I haven't convinced you that this is an album to listen to, but I hope I have, because it is. It's 7 songs long, 30 minutes, so it's a fairly short album, easily get throughable on your commute, let's say. You may not appreciate all of the nuances on your commute, but you will at least have a good time with a cool up and coming artist who's making art music, and that's really important and wonderful and great, and all power to her. Yeah, great. Have a lovely day and a lovely night, and I will also go to bed, and I hope you do too at the end of your day. Bye bye.